Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen, dearest colleagues, dearest viewers who will be joining us online. This year, Eurasian Media Forum is being held during the year of 30th anniversary of independence of Kazakhstan. Such periods, as a rule, provide an opportunity to come to the conclusions in different dimensions. And today we're going to be speaking about brand building. For 30 years, how many Kazakhstani brands do we have at the moment? Is it a lot number or is it a small number? I think that this topic is pretty important because all of us are consumers. When we come to a shop, we see many goods made in Kazakhstan on the shelves. However, once we turn on the TV or listen to radio or search on the internet, there's a contrast. The good exists, however, the ads are not about Kazakhstani goods. So I would like to give the floor to Tatyana Startseva to talk to us more. My name is Tatyana Startseva. Good afternoon. I work in international survey company, and I'd like to share my presentation. Would you please put the presentation on the screen? There it is. So briefly, I would like to talk to you to start with about the brands and the importance of brands, what needs to be included into the brands, and what is going on in Kazakhstan from a brand development standpoint at communication channels from a presence of the Kazakhstani brand standpoint. So to start with, I would like to mention about the very easy stuff, like the brands are good as they are sustainable, and during times of the crisis, they suffer as every other goods. However, they have a chance to get restored in 9 or 10 folds faster than the brands who don't have as much strength as they do have. And the group that I represent conducts annual survey, international annual survey, and we managed to sum up the characteristics typical for strong top brands worldwide. And one of the characteristics is awareness. The awareness about the brand that comes first into your mind. This is a very important characteristics along with uniqueness and proximity to the customer. However, I would like to talk to you about the top of mind characteristics. So actually, top of the mind is something that may be damaged first from a lack of communications, and this deprives the strength of the brand. And at the same time, the key characteristics of the image are not that prone to be suffering. So COVID-19 is something that served as a lucky ticket for us, or unlucky ticket, I don't know how to call it. Well, we turned out to be in the situation that has never been experienced before in the past, and perhaps it will not be experienced again. However, despite the fact that you may not stop communicational support to the brand, and despite the fact that the consumers themselves in Kazakhstan, the 96% of our consumers told that the brands should keep providing ads. The panic has happened last year, for instance, and there was a decline of the number of ad placements, and the decline ranged from 20 to 70%. There could be the reasons for that. About 70% of ad placements left the channels, and the media, some of the media became more effective. TV, for instance, were pretty limited in terms of movement capabilities, and TV lost up to 20% of their customers, ad customers. And the strongest channels of communication in Kazakhstan are TV and internet, I mean offline TV, as internet is an environment. It is a special environment. It is hard to understand what the people do. It seems that users use internet 24/7. However, if you are going to place your ad, it is hard to measure actually. However, we have to take into account that under the abstract definition of internet, up to 62% of city inhabitants watch video using internet, and 22 watch not only video but TV channels, and the others watch not the TV channels but the TV content plus video. Yes, and this is a common image of video or audio. They don't listen to radio, they listen to the music, you know. And definitely this environment is pretty complex and pretty diversified, and we have to understand how the life looks like in the internet. There are two strongest channels in Kazakhstan. And again, what is going on from a Kazakhstani brand standpoint on different channels of communication? We have to mention about the fact that out of top 100 brands, only 12% are brands made in Kazakhstan. So on TV, we have the least amount of Kazakh brands. Well, indeed, this is a very interesting indicator. So I will have the question regarding the 46%. Tatyana, 12%. As the one who sells ads on TV, perhaps I'm not going to be objective enough. However, in your opinion, why is it so little? Is it expensive? Is TV expensive? So in your important, from the producer standpoint, I think that there is a stereotype, you know, certain stereotype related to that fact, whether it is expensive or whether it is difficult to be completed. There is a fear, there is a barrier. The producer might be having, you know, not the large ones, the medium-sized producers, for instance, they do have a fear to address that environment. It seems as if TV is something unreachable. You know, TV is number one. You may need to start from the more modest forms of communications, you know, to try having your ads placed in internet or newspapers. Yes, I think so. Yes, it is related to the level of the understanding of TV, of television, and now television is the most transparent environment. You know, the greedy person pays twice. So, you know, the attempts to make money. You know, the input point is little one, you know, just 3 messages, and that could be a complete waste of money. However, there's stereotypes that need to be somehow corrected by the industry representatives, I guess. And I would like to talk to you more about Kazakhstani brands that are represented on television channels. And top 3 categories are drinks, piala, tea, asu, water, internet and radio. Are famous for Technodom, Michta, and other appliances shops, plus the external ads. You know, drinks is the popular category. So, in terms of the budget standpoint, for TV channels, only 7 channels do have Kazakhstani brands, so 7 brands out of 50. So cell operators, the bank, which is not a bank anymore, and drinks. And you know, the Kazakhstani brands are pretty limited, and represented in a short width So we had over 40 different Kazakhstani brands represented. However, if we take top 100, 90% of the internet ads, despite the fact that the internet is the most branded environment, we have a vast number of brands represented in the internet. 100 brands represent 50% of all of the brands being mentioned in the internet. And to conclude, I would like to say that certainly the channels of communication are important. However, we have to understand what return of investment consists of. And Kazakhstani brands have certain myths and a pretty limited level of expectations. They don't know what to expect and in what volume, for instance, and those points don't get together because the expectations are greater than the reality may provide. So you need to have experts to marry the channels in the right way to have multiple effects and not to overpay for indicators, certain indicators that you might not need actually, in fact. And I think that we have to work on the understanding and the level of culture has to be upgraded. All right, so our discussion is going to be somehow related to two resource-related factors, people and money. Yerbol, so I would like to ask you the following question. It goes without saying that it is hard to compete with the largest transnational companies, and I think that we need to find the blue ocean where Kazakh producers of goods and services of food industry, for instance, any industry, could be seriously different from the other players. As far as I'm concerned, there are examples of that activity in Kazakhstan. Tatyana, thank you so much. You have made a very bold line and described how these things look like in our industry. I would like to talk about the future, about the perspectives. I think that this is a good signal for our business and a signal to our government towards provide better support. Because by promoting the local goods, not only at the domestic market, but also to the external market, we make our country richer, make it recognizable, and we shouldn't get into the wide range of wide types of products. We have to be specialized, and I think that specialization of the economy, in my view, should be focused on the production of goods, foodstuffs, food that will be organic, and all the prerequisites are there. In Kazakhstan, 300,000 hectares are certified organic fields, and all these products are exported to Europe. And this is the colossal revenue in hard currency with pretty low costs. According to our preliminary estimates, about 3.5 or 4 million of hectares that could be converted during the next 2 to 3 years that could be certified as organic ones. We discussed before this meeting that this certification would allow exporting goods to Europe, right? Okay, Europe is okay, but the domestic consumers do also deserve the organic food, definitely. Our first and primary task is to supply to the domestic market, and only the surplus could be exported. I think now it happens a little bit vice versa. Yes, indeed. But this is a great advantage because our producers now have seen all the advantages and all the pluses of exporting, and there is a great clear intention to get to the external market and then get to the domestic market. It is a shame that we produce organic food and the bread is now eaten by the English Queen or some people in Japan. Therefore, definitely, if we are talking about promotion, I think the
environmental trend or umbrella trend of Kaz organic food should be promoted. And this Kaz organic can be either involved in crop production, in livestock, and also the decoration materials, and because the task is not to produce mass product, because there are lots of competitors such as Canada and America who produce more and better quality grain, and also Russia that produces 10 times more grain than we do. Speaking about red meat, even Argentina, because of the climatic conditions, can produce beef at a cheaper cost. So let us not take a piece of meat from Antonov, because he's going to speak about meat. Yeah, I know that Antonov is going to speak about his business, but in general, I believe that government and the business could focus on that, because there are some prerequisites for that, whether it's blessing or non-blessing, that Kazakhstan land is not so much spoiled with herbicides and pollution. And though the country is pretty big, but pretty far from the maritime routes, and therefore branding and promotion at the domestic level could be not the best approach. So we could use the Jewish approach, but the Jews, in fact, feed almost half of Europe without any water and with scarce water. Yes, in fact, we do have some routes and prerequisites that would help us taking our own niche, especially given that the market is pretty vast, including China. You know that during the last 10 years, the consumption parity of Chinese consumers has grown significantly, but Kazakh people also wish to eat. Why do we look at our neighbors? You know that starting from 2017, our neighbors, Russia, has now come across with sanctions, and now Vkusvil, they started this small brand, and now they're getting into IPO. It could be up to $3 billion. So Kazakhstan could start with smaller projects. I know that the farmers also have problems with sales. I know that the industries of marketing and advertising could help that. Well, in fact, there are solutions. We understand that about 80% of production in Kazakhstan are small farmers and the household cattle. This is the historic conditions. In the south, there may be more, and in the north, there could be at maximum 2 or 3 hectares, but mostly it's 10 acres. So the solution could be to create the umbrella brands, whereby the smaller farms, in fact, this Vkusvil could be the option. Yes, right, that's right, because most of our products are local. For example, milk is provided by Rodina village to Nur-Sultan, but he doesn't need any advertising, because the quality of the product and the key driver to his promotion, but he could upscale, he could cover the entire Kazakhstan, but in this case he will need advertising. Yes, probably to the future, but I think we need to make it clear a distinction between the local products, because, for example, if we create creative commercials for Nur-Sultan, it should be available only here. Speaking about merging smaller farms, this could be done by the umbrella brand. For example, the apples of Almaty, the apples of Kokshetau. So these brands could unite a lot of smaller farms. Yes, cooperatives could play a role, yes. And the integrators, the wholesale purchasers who will purchase all these goods and then promote it. Yes, probably they could be kind of associations like Atameken, always. If there is a common interest, people would be ready to unite. People have grown from these pants. They learned to produce, and now the challenge is to sell. Of course, it's difficult to sell the product of various qualities, and to get certain umbrella brand, certain requirements should be imposed, such as accounting system, quality, period of production, supplies, and so on. So all these things need to be taken into account, including obligations of the farmers. Yerbol, since our time is limited, I would briefly summarize what you said. As you said, there are two pillars. One is the environment or organic food production. It could be the kind of advocacy that it will be cheaper to buy organic food rather than buy medicines later. And the second is to make smaller farms bigger, to impose certain certification, quality control, and so on. Because for one farmer to come to Magnum and sell, it's not an option. I think we should pay credit to Philip Morris, who organized such a cooperative, which is unexpected for the tobacco producing company. Yes, we should give credit to them that they organized it. They ensured all necessary competences to the farmers. They attracted international experts. They agreed with the network in Almaty city, and the farmers are now working, and they earn. So they know exactly what needs to be produced, what kind of tomatoes, when they should be sold, because there are some periods when the price is the lowest, and when there is a period when demand is high, like with potatoes in spring. So this competence helps them avoiding these curves, price curves. So people help them to and teach them marketing. Okay, thank you very much, Yerbol. Let's get back to the favorite product of Kazakhstan, meat. Anton will now describe a case, one of the few, whereby the product that is very complex to protect, to secure, who wants to become a brand. Is my understanding correct? Yes. I would explain that this is not a product that is difficult to brand, difficult to label, difficult to mark. Yes, indeed. The players are very difficult to identify. Yes, indeed. This is a market with very high competition. Since we are talking about the meat market, whichever product you produce here, you always have to compete with with monsters and smaller farmers, smaller markets. As Yerbol said, there could be major companies in the north and smaller farms in the south. I will tell you about how we created the commercials for KazMyasa. KazMyasa is the company that was established in 2013, and the key business was B2B. The guys would produce meat and then sell it to the restaurant network. Last year, the company decided to get into the B2C segment and started a number of stores. The specifics of the company is that in addition to other types of meat, as Yerbol said, that you have to identify your niche and to be narrowly specialized. So the guys identified their niche, and they started to grow Angus. We are all aware that Angus meat is the elite pedigree. Whether it's so or not, it's not clear, but I think it's the pedigree from Argentina, right? No, this is Australian. Okay. Well, in bigger terms, the guys got into the market. They didn't have any experience. They have had concerns and worries, and the company asked us help them under a very small budget, something very bright, so that they could start. We did the analysis. We found out that the awareness of the brand is pretty low. I'm sure that everyone sitting here, they learn about this company for the first time. I know that they have started getting into Magnum with the frozen steaks. This is the outcome of our work. So the product was not positioned properly. And this is exactly what Yerbol is saying, that brands often do not emerge because the producers do not have the understanding of themselves. They don't know what kind of player they are, because this is the market with very high competition. So of course, there is no positioning, and the image is not remembered. And my understanding is that this is a vertically integrated company. Yes, indeed. The company, the way it is organized, the guys did it very right. They realized that they cannot compete with everyone. They started doing it in an organic way. They have a land plot, they grow it, and they have the full cycle of the meat production. We started looking at their business in detail to identify the small things that could make it bright and juice it to make it creative, so that people would remember them. And of course, we had to share the philosophy of the company and its strategy. We identified 4 important things. One is that it is made in Kazakhstan, and this is a local product, and this is extremely important, and this is the latest trend that the Kazakh brands can be successful and can compete at a domestic market with the companies that are well known. And in fact, the local brands are of highest demand among Kazakhstani people. Why? Because if we look at the food sector, we understand that, first of all, this is the natural product, because quite often the quality of products produced, our producers do not strive to get the genetic modification, and we understand that this meat does not need to be transported too far with the need to freeze it. Therefore, the product is fresh. And also, we identified the fact that it is a premium brand because the price per kilo is 5 times higher compared to steaks from ordinary beef. Another important thing is that we got from the client, and that became the key factor of brand making, is that this meat doesn't have much fat. And by summarizing all that, we put 3 things that we use as the basis, because we are the Kazakh brand and we are proud of that. We are the premium brand and we would like to demonstrate it. And we are in favor of the healthy lifestyle. Our pasture is organic, our meat has less fat. So, and we visualized all that as the Kazakh diet, where we focus on diet, because Kazakhstan, among all other global countries, consumes a lot of meat per capita. The resultant campaign was pretty bright, where through the prism of diet and nutrition, we promote the product, and this approach succeeded. now the consumers identify very clearly the company. What does it mean, succeeded? Have their sales grown twice, or is it just knowledge? These are the three things that we discussed before. They were not known, now they are known. They have been self-identified among brands, and the consumers are now now identify them. And of course, this resulted in sales. The sales increased to how much? I don't know yet, because the campaign is still ongoing, but pretty significantly. You mean 10 times? Yes. Well, not 10 times, not by a matter of magnitude. But if it's done by TV, then it would have been grown significantly. Well, the thing is that the budget is small, because yes, their approach is let's first earn the money and then we will place the commercial. Yes, because the budget was pretty low, absolutely unacceptable for television. Yeah, probably it could be a good benchmark. If we look at our northern neighbor, the company Miratorg, a major food complex located in Belgorod region, the budget for TV in Russia is 1/4 of the entire television budget for the Republic of Kazakhstan, and they have grown by a number of figures. In addition to meat, they also freeze ravioli, pelmeni, manti, and we are saying that we don't have spices and we pay too much for the spices, so they stayed away from television for 1 year. They said that it's difficult for us to get into the existing networks. They spent 10 billion, and then they came back to television. But here the most important is what they started with. They started with big revolving budget. So it's just the first step for this company to become the local Miratorg.
In terms of the agricultural business development, the state does have the money for that. And do you remember about General Suvorov saying, you know, you gotta, you know, find the money at any means. So have a loan and, you know, go to the TV channel. You know, this is the reality. There are many cases like the one that I have referenced to. Sorry for interruption. No, I don't mind. Yes, I wouldn't argue with you. What I said about that, this is an example of how you could start and what you could start with in order to move forward, to invest later. In order to have a large-scale campaign, you need to find yourself as a brand, as a good. And you confirm whatever Tatyana said. You know, you're using kittens, you know, and the external ads. Yes, it's not us, it's the client to try. Yes, that was the first launching campaign. That was the first trial. Yes, you were absolutely right while you were saying that we're living in an age of mistrust, you know. When we have a look at the frozen, you know, Kazmyasa steak, and the question is where it was brought from, you know, Argentina, Nigeria, Mongolia, you know, and Tatyana said that last year it was a renaissance of the television, because during the times of pandemic, social networks provided one true post about the pandemic and 10 posts which were fake totally. So Sate, for instance, our mountains, fields, and you know, I love going to that place, you know, and the cows look perfectly well. You know, Yerbol will not let me lie, you know, that we would not have the meat breeds, only the milk ones, the dairy ones. No. The breeds existed in the Soviet times. However, we would not see those. Sorry again for interruption. No, not at all. So that was the result that we received. So that could serve as a advice. Miratorg was a very great reference. They started about 7 years ago. They had problem with identification. How can you identify the meat? Meat as a meat. Because people don't know how the good meat needs to look like, right? And we mentioned about the definition of the brand. It is a brand that do expect certain level of quality. When the person buys not just the meat, like a regular meat, but Kazmyasa or Miratorg, the customer realizes that the steak would need to, have 3 minutes on each side, and in 3 minutes the steak is going to be ready. You wanted to say something, not 5 minutes, for instance. Yes, you made it very, very clear reference to Miratorg, but I would like to add for our regular customer. Haven't you asked yourselves why did they go so fast? They had foundation, actually. I mean, Miratorg. I was interested in the history of success. So what they managed to do was to feed the animals. They invested a lot into the feed production, the production of amino acids. Miratorg may feed any animal and then sell it later at a good price. And you may feed the animal in the right way, but if you are incapable of selling it, it doesn't make any sense. So why did I concentrate on organic stuff? We have pure land, we have organic resources, and this provides an opportunity to have good feeding. And to have a good net price and to promote it, because the final product is not cheap, right? This is a premium product. Yes, and from that standpoint, I think that this is an address to the entrepreneurs who are to use the PR services and creative services, and the intention is to be made on the inputs. They gotta be having a very serious competitive advantage. So while entering the market, they may announce that the animals will grow in because of the good feeding, and the return will grow in tenfolds, for instance. Yes, that's a different topic and a different issue to address. Thank you. Anton, this is great to have such professionals. However, the issue we have to mention about, apart from money, is HR related. I wanted to ask Ulzhalgas. You worked in many areas. You used to be working in agencies, net agency, and now you work at TV. So can any entrepreneur working in Kazakhstan, we told it in bright colors to Yerbol. I'd like to mention about such a thing as advertisement and marketing, and whether there are people there or not. So last year was good for us because we became digitalized. We have been provided an access to the internet. We can work from home remotely. However, at the same time, we had a pretty negative impact. We had a brain leak. Not a physical brain leak when the person would leave elsewhere. You may stay in Kazakhstan but work for the foreign companies. However, what we would like to do is to have our national resources to stay within our national companies. Sometimes the guys, for instance, who are being searched, and it doesn't matter whom we're looking for. We're looking for professionals to work at the PR company. They don't understand their value. Once they get interviewed, what we realize is that there are two dimensions the employer looks at. The soft skills and hard skills. However, it is more often when the employer may may employ from a hard standpoint, for instance, Excel, whether you master Excel or the Word software, any other additional soft. However, there are soft skills as well. The soft skills may tell you how well the person may be fitted into the team, and often employers do not want to invest into the personnel development, to invest into the professional upgrades. So they employ those having good hard skills but missing soft skills. At KSAL, we try to select those who have good soft skills when it comes to hard skills. This is something that we try to push and develop because we have our own university, for instance, under the umbrella of KSL, and that university allows for each and every employee to nail down the hard skills. So the HR issue is really important. Many of our clients want everything to be done in-house, and the discussion was whether it has to be done in-house or be outsourced to the agency. Once you start working with the agency, you have to position yourself not as a relationship in between the agency and the client, where some would prevail, but you have to communicate as partners, because we do have a shared aim, shared objectives, because the agency is to help out to upgrade the sales, for instance, to upgrade the level of knowledge that we have referenced to previously. So every company has to realize that if you don't manage to employ the person and the person to join your team in-house, this is how you could, go to the agency. This is how you could optimize your expensive, and this, by doing so, you would avoid having the brain drain, and your guys would be interested in the work. So I came up to an idea, hardly, we would need to go to the court and defend ourselves. We would go to the attorney, but in the West, the legal companies, provide some free of charge accompanying of the cases. I don't remember how it sounds like in Latin. However, are you ready? For instance, let's have Yerbol to approach you and bring you the client who wants to have branding, rebranding, whatever. Are you able of providing those services free of charge? We're all patriots, but we all want to meet, right? Well, you may actually exchange your services to something else. Yes, it is not going to be free of charge completely if you are paid by meet. Well, actually, there's a lack of resources. A lack of resources, monetary resources, leads to the lack of human resources. I don't know what comes first. Up until we have the association of cooperatives, and up until somebody helps you out, the resellers used to be having a discount for Kazakh producers, for instance. I mean, the ad for Kazakhstani producers would be cheaper, than the one produced for transnational companies, perhaps other agencies are watching us right now. So roughly speaking, let's take our company as a reference. Starting from 2016, we have representative office in San Francisco, and we've been active at the foreign markets as well. However, at the same time, we have a series of projects that we've been implementing so far for the local market, in majority social programs, for instance, that we would implement either free of charge or having provided a huge discount. And at the same time, for local companies, for important companies, for instance, the most important companies, we would have exclusive conditions for cooperation for us to grow together, because as an agency, we grow through our clients. And when you worked with Kazmyasa, perhaps you found out more about the content of the meat, the level of fat, and so on and so forth. So what are the options when it comes to human resources, for instance? Of course, people are searching for better places of employment. How can you retain a person? Well, I thought about it a lot, how to retain your people, how to avoid brain drain. And I think that one of the major motivators is non-material motivation. When you, as a supervisor, as a leader, devote yourself to your subordinate, to your employee, and you build up the emotional trust, and somebody is to bear responsibility on your behalf. Somebody is ready to, share the happiness or the sad moments in life. And those emotional things, they act as a glue and put the team together. Last year, actually, demonstrated how important team buildings are. For instance, in informal environment, you may get to know your colleagues much better. And last year we were so limited, and this year we had a migration from different teams. We worked remotely, and we would watch each other through the screen of the computer. And it is important, to switch on your video, to switch on your camera. Audio wasn't enough anymore. So I don't think that those non-material motivation is something that acts well. So we're speaking about the basic stuff, when the person has a good salary and so on and so forth. However, Yerbol represents the association, is something that is impossible to imagine to work remotely. For instance, you may not harvest wheat remotely, right? Yes. You gotta have 1.5 meters in between the social distancing is something that is needed. Well, in Kazakhstan, in terms of the territory, we are lucky. We may provide up to 1.5 kilometers if need be of social distances, not even 150 centimeters. So the Kazakhstani companies realize that, you got good clients, you got the marketing positions. Marina, I would like to ask you a question. Do you remember the slide with 12% of Kazakhstani brands displaced on television and the rest in the internet? So would you please press two silver buttons to respond? All right, so there's an opinion, especially amongst our young colleagues from the marketing. They say that television is the old practice. Nobody watches it. It is enough to, search for information. Tatyana said that 81% are internet users, 95 of them are using WhatsApp, and somebody is just using, email addresses. Nobody pays attention to that fact. However, my question would be pretty strange, and actually, I think that I needed to ask it. Is it true that internet may be having the same indicators as TV, even larger, even higher? I represent TV Media Digital. My name is Marina, and it is a pretty provocative question to start with. I would like to say that we have analyzed local brands displaced in the internet, and unfortunately, the level of those local brands is pretty moderate. And 7/9% of presence. So PR campaigns and banner in Kaznet is a bit larger at the level of 25/29%. And I think that there's an answer to your question. Why is it so little? To start with, I think that this is related to the production. To make a video clip is much more complex than to write an article or to have a banner ad. And over here, we have to, relate television to the topic. Despite the fact that I work in digital, I think I know that the highest segment of the threshold is ensured by the TV coverage. I read an interview of the well-known Russian tech entrepreneur who created online university digital professions, and he said that television provided him with the largest growth and made his brand that popular and made it possible for him to to proceed with IPO. So yes, internet is a good thing. However, it's good for medium-sized company that are not going to be entering the top of mind categories. So, you may use internet. However, the audience is reaching at certain figures. I'm trying to overcome that glass ceiling, and as far as I'm concerned, Yandex in Russia actually increased its expenses by over 1,000% in Russia. So if IT companies, for instance, realize that the television has audience and the television is being watched by the customers, marketing people have to actually make sure that their voice is heard. And I would like to ask you a common question. It's not going to be provocative, but anyway, sorry for interruption. I think that the complexity the marketing experts have is that they're incapable of having the media mix. They enter the area they understand well. Do you think that internet is pretty understandable? Well, if the marketing expert knows what Google Ads, targeted internet usage and so on, it could be even more complex than in television. However, the marketing expert would master, there is a tunnel vision and mindset, and there is a lack of opportunity to mix different types of media. It doesn't understand, for instance, what type of tools to use, and this is what Ulzhalgas was talking about. The level of knowledge, the level of being able to continue your education. For instance, the online universities would use television still being digital. This is a good sign that television is still in demand. So digital is used as a performance, right? And certainly there are media tools. However, within those media tools, you would never reach such a large number of unique audience you may reach through television.
Еще один, наверное, нюанс.
And one more nuance I would like to address, and I'm not going to be throwing stones at you anyway. We don't realize it completely. For instance, plus 24% is an expert decision, the actual expert opinion-based decision. However, in fact, this is more or less related to the models.
Garden, покупая аудиторию, там, условно говоря, на Яндексе, Гугле, Фейсбуке, ты не понимаешь, ты одних и тех же людей, в смысле не людей, а аудиторию покупаешь или разную, или что-то еще. Да, и в этом плане, когда говорят, что интернет проще, вот для меня, например, интернет ни разу не проще, если в нем чуть глубже разобраться. Телевидение намного проще. А вопрос, не то, что вопрос, я думаю, что вы все согласитесь, а может и не все, мы то, что обсуждали. Вот когда говорят, телевидение это старое, это все такое, вот бренд построить. Об этом говорят только те, у которых нет денег на размещение, на рекламу на ТВ. Вы согласны с этим утверждением? Ербол, я вижу, не согласен.
Знаете, есть еще... прошу прощения. Есть еще такое когнитивное...
Чуть ближе.
Да, есть еще такое когнитивное искажение, да, когда мало человек знает, он считает, что он знает все, да, с большей вероятностью. Поэтому, конечно, здесь нужно, отдать должное, да, технологическим компаниям, которые продают интернет-ресурсы, потому что они настолько создали видимость простоты, да, что люди не задумываются о том, что это иллюзия, да, и они используют инструмент, да, без, они не углубляются, да, я не всех, упаси Боже, есть специалисты, да, но почему массово так интернет используется, потому что создана...
The reason why internet is so badly used is that the shell of the internet resource is being established. Well, of course, it's the PR manager who is better aware of that. And if we get away from the discussion who is better and who is worse without measuring all that, if we are talking about building just not the awareness of the brand, but the brand that the television can establish, the trust, because brand is not just the brand, it's the set of confidence, it's your trust to the producer, and television provides this trust. Yerbol does not agree with me to the full extent. That's my feeling. It's just that I don't understand many of the thoughts and terminology that you are referring to. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, no, it's okay. I know that it is based on practice. Regarding the fact that the tools that you are discussing are probably obsolete now, and it is now the time of the hybrid approaches, because I look at it with the eyes of the classic farmer, and I realize that when choosing the brand, choosing the product, I personally pay attention to several things. For example, the positive feedback of my colleague, which is the mouth information. Yes, right. This is about the agriculture and the consumers. Secondly, since we are in the period of the idols, so youth are trying to follow their idols, and the producers would find their own idols to follow. So the approach in promoting brand should be very multifold. Again, when we are talking, if it's a brand from FMCG, for example, we discussed the goods that are very well heard about, and they include Tesla, Apple, Amazon, the people who are purely involved in marketing. Tesla produces cars, but not 5 times better than the Chinese. iPhone 13 is not twice better than iPhone 13. So that's what we are talking about. Marina, sorry for interrupting you. I think I finished my thought. Okay. Well, indeed, probably we should not measure and compare ourselves, but rather work with the human resources. Of course, every farmer cannot have the good marketing manager. Even major companies cannot afford that. So it's the question of merging cooperation and assistance. As Marina said, people do not trust the agencies. They are afraid that some unclear GRPs will be offered. But could you give me 5 outputs? I could compare them. For example, the outside advertisement is clear, but TNS and 5 GRP, what does it mean? Probably there were 8 or 2, so it doesn't matter. So it's a matter of trust and matter of resources. And I think it's a challenging time with pandemic, and probably the situation is not as good as is desirable. But I'm sure that there are lots of subsidies provided, lots of programs, and the government tries to provide all possible support. Probably we should take a more focused niche, such as organic, for example, or growing fish, because this is very useful. However, since Kazakhs are placed the second ranking from the point of view of meat consumption, and probably red meat is not the best one for the nutrition. So therefore, we could somehow merge our efforts through, it could be Atameken or Central Asian platforms. So there are lots of them, and I think some efforts could be joined and involved. In fact, Atameken is already involved and is used as a platform, and the clients like Kazmyasa is already there. Yes, I understand, but this could be the platform for example, it could be a platform for the livestock or for the crop growing. In fact, for all the consumers, Atameken is the association of associations. So we unite all these subsectors. So at the initial stage, a lot of work could be done by Atameken, and that's what they are doing. I think you could start the Association of Kazakhstani Brands. The Ministry of Trade has a special program to promote brands, so we are actively involved in this program during the last 2 years, which is the brand Kazakh Organic, Halal brand, Kazmeat brand, Kazakh butter brand as well. So some work is being done, so nobody is surprised to see our goods on the external markets, so we have to continue that. So we are talking about the external stories of global companies such as from Miratorg and Involved and so on. I'm talking about something different, that Kazakhstani brands need to be identifiable. So the companies may produce their goods, but they don't know how to package it, not from the point of view of physical wrapping, but to identify their strengths and weaknesses. So since even the owners could not decide which of the benefits they have. So the best, how to define the price and how to pack, like Philip Morris asked, do you have any tomatoes? No, we don't. But if you plant them, yes, if we plant them, they should grow, I think. And to identify the best time to sell them. And I think Atameken and other associations, including promoting, marketing. So I don't know whether we have any agencies in Kazakhstan that only deal with branding. Do we have any? Yes, we do. But probably they don't do it properly, even with their own branding, so we don't know them. But this happens. Thank you very much for your time, for your participation. I know that many of you came from other southern capital city. So if you wish to have any final comments or something else to ask questions. Marina? Let me add, when we were talking about the budget and high prices and something else, I think that it makes sense here for the producers to stop considering the budget as the cost paradigm, but rather take it as a profitability of investments, so that they don't look at it from the point of view of another line item of costs, but investments in the business development. If you look at it from this standpoint, I think this is going to be better to grow the local businesses so that they could become brands and top of mind. You're absolutely right. And Yerbol said that 1 ruble invested in agriculture can result in 1 tenge plus 1 tenge, which is 100% of profitability. I don't know about other media. I know that for television, the profitability is 26%. So by investing 1 tenge, you will get 1.26 tenge. So I understand that this is the average figure, but I fully agree with Marina that if you invest, like you invest in your HR, in your best technologies, marketing and advertising are the same investments. So I would wish that Kazakh brands realize that, and I hope that in 10 years, when Kazakhstan celebrates its 40 years and Tatyana will demonstrate her presentation, it will be at least like with our northern neighbor, that more than 50% of all the budgets in television, it will be local brands. But the best, but it will be the absolute minimum. So 98% of all the foodstuffs in Kazakhstan would be the local, absolutely organic foodstuffs. Thanks a lot to all of you again.